Most dog owners talk to their dogs every day, whether it's a cheerful good morning or a frustrated why did you chew my shoe again? Humans speak to dogs as if they understand every word. But here's the surprising truth. Dogs don't just hear your voice, they feel it. And what they think when you talk to them is far more emotional, complex, and beautiful than most people realize. This isn't just about commands like sit or stay. It's about the emotional language dogs have evolved to understand, the way they read your tone, your posture, and even your silence. And once you understand how dogs interpret your voice, you'll never speak to them the same way again. Let's start with the basics. Dogs don't process language the way humans do. They don't understand grammar, sentence structure, or abstract concepts, but they do understand patterns. Over time, they learn to associate specific sounds, like walk, treat, or their name, with outcomes. But even more than words, dogs respond to tone. A high-pitched, cheerful voice can make them wag their tail even if you're saying nonsense. A low, harsh tone can make them cower, even if you're saying something kind. So what does this mean? It means that when you talk to your dog, they're not listening for meaning. They're listening for emotion. Recent studies in canine neuroscience show that dogs process human speech in both hemispheres of their brain, just like we do. The left side picks up on familiar words, while the right side interprets tone and emotional cues. This dual processing allows dogs to build what researchers call emotional maps of their owners. These maps aren't just about commands. They're about trust, safety, and connection. Imagine this. Every time you speak to your dog, they're not just hearing you. They're remembering how you made them feel. Your voice becomes a kind of emotional fingerprint, one they carry with them, even when you're not around. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Dogs don't just respond to your voice. They anticipate it. They learn your rhythms, your habits, and your moods. If you always talk to them in a gentle tone before bedtime, they'll start to relax as soon as they hear your voice in the evening. If you raise your voice when you're stressed, they'll pick up on that too, and may even mirror your anxiety. This emotional mirroring is part of what makes dogs such powerful companions. They're not just reacting to you, they're attuning to you. In fact, some researchers believe dogs are better at reading human emotions than any other species on Earth, including chimpanzees. But here's the part most dog owners miss. Dogs also respond to silence. If you suddenly stop talking to your dog, they notice. They may become anxious, confused, or even try to get your attention. That's because silence, to a dog, can signal disconnection. And for a creature wired for social bonding, that's deeply unsettling. So what does your dog think when you talk to them? They think, are you safe? Are you kind? Are you connected to me? They're not analyzing your words. They're feeling your presence. And this emotional sensitivity goes both ways. When you talk to your dog, you're not just communicating, you're co-regulating. Your tone can calm them, excite them, or reassure them, and their response can do the same for you. That's why talking to dogs is so therapeutic. It's not just about them, it's about the bond you share. Now let's talk about body language, because for dogs, the body speaks louder than words. When you talk to your dog, they're watching your posture, your gestures, and even your facial expressions. A relaxed stance and soft eyes tell them you're calm. Tense shoulders and a furrowed brow tell them something's wrong. Dogs are masters of micro-expression. They notice the tiniest changes in your face and body, and they use these cues to interpret your voice. So if you say, good boy, with a stiff posture, they may not feel praised. But if you say it with a smile and a relaxed body, they'll light up. This is why consistency matters. Dogs thrive on predictable emotional cues. If your tone and body language match, they feel safe. If they don't, they get confused. And confusion can lead to anxiety, misbehavior, or withdrawal. But here's the hopeful part. Dogs are incredibly forgiving. Even if you've been inconsistent or stressed, they'll keep trying to understand you. They'll keep listening, watching, and attuning. Because for dogs, the bond is everything. And that bond is built not just on words, but on presence. One of the most overlooked aspects of dog communication is the power of shared silence. Sitting quietly with your dog, breathing together, and simply being present can be more meaningful than any command or praise. In these moments, your dog isn't thinking about what you're saying. They're feeling who you are. This is especially true for therapy dogs. These dogs are trained to respond to emotional cues, not verbal ones. They comfort people in hospitals, nursing homes, and trauma centers, not by talking, but by listening. And what they listen to is the emotional energy of the room. They sense sadness, fear, and hope, and they respond with quiet companionship. So when you talk to your dog, remember, it's not about the words, it's about the feeling behind them. Let's take a moment to explore how dogs learn words. It's not through repetition alone, it's through emotional association. When you say walk with excitement and then grab the leash, your dog learns that walk means joy and movement. When you say no with frustration, they learn that no means something's wrong. But here's the twist. Dogs don't just learn words. They learn your emotional patterns. They know when you're about to leave the house, even before you say goodbye. They know when you're upset, even if you're trying to hide it. And they respond not to your words, but to your energy. This is why dogs are such powerful emotional mirrors. They reflect your inner state, often more accurately than other humans. And when you talk to them, they're not just hearing you, they're feeling you. Now, let's talk about oxytocin. This is the hormone responsible for bonding, trust, and emotional connection. When you talk to your dog in a loving tone, both of you release oxytocin. It's the same hormone released when a mother looks at her baby, and it's part of what makes the human-dog bond so unique. Studies show that mutual gaze between dogs and their owners increases oxytocin levels in both. So when you talk to your dog and they look into your eyes, you're not just communicating. You're bonding on a biochemical level, and this bond has lasting effects. Dogs remember how you made them feel. They carry emotional memories of your voice, your touch, and your presence. These memories shape their behavior, their trust, and their sense of safety. Now let's talk about empathy. Dogs are one of the few species that show signs of emotional empathy, not just responding to your mood, but actually feeling it. If you're sad and speak softly, your dog may lower their body, rest their head on your lap, or stay close without being asked. This isn't just learned behavior, it's emotional resonance. Studies have shown that dogs can distinguish between happy and sad human vocalizations, even when spoken in a foreign language. That means they're not relying on word recognition. They're tuning into emotional frequency. Your dog doesn't need to understand your language to understand your heart, and this emotional resonance works both ways. When you speak to your dog in a loving tone, you're not just comforting them, you're regulating your own nervous system. The act of speaking gently, of being heard without judgment, creates a feedback loop of calm and connection. This is why so many people talk to their dogs during moments of stress. It's not just about the dog, it's about the safety of being emotionally seen. Let's go deeper into the science. Dogs have a specialized part of their brain called the temporal cortex that responds to human voices. This region lights up when they hear familiar tones, especially those associated with positive experiences. But here's the twist. It doesn't just respond to sound, it responds to emotional context. So when you speak to your dog, their brain isn't just processing noise. It's mapping your emotional state, comparing it to past experiences, and predicting what might happen next. This predictive ability is part of what makes dogs feel so in tune with their owners. They're not psychic, they're emotionally intelligent, and that intelligence is shaped by their environment. Dogs raised in emotionally safe homes tend to be more responsive, more trusting, and more attuned to human speech. Dogs raised in chaotic or neglectful environments may struggle to interpret tone, may become hypervigilant, or may shut down altogether. This isn't a flaw, it's a survival strategy. So when you talk to your dog, you're not just communicating, you're shaping their emotional world. Every word, every tone, every gesture becomes part of their internal map of safety and connection. Now let's explore something even more subtle, the role of rhythm. Dogs are sensitive to the cadence of your speech. Fast, clipped phrases can signal urgency or stress. Slow, melodic tones can signal calm and affection. This sensitivity to rhythm is why dogs often respond better to songs or baby talk than to commands. It's not the content, it's the emotional flow. In fact, some trainers use rhythmic speech patterns to build trust with anxious dogs. By speaking in a slow, predictable cadence, they create a sense of emotional stability. And once that rhythm is established, dogs begin to relax. Not because they understand the words, but because they feel the safety in the pattern. This brings us to a powerful truth. Dogs don't just hear your voice, they feel your rhythm, and that rhythm becomes part of their emotional landscape. So what does your dog think when you talk to them? They think, this is my person, this is my world, this is where I belong. And that's the most surprising truth of all. Dogs don't just hear your voice, they build their emotional universe around it. They don't care if you're eloquent, they care if you're kind. They don't need perfect grammar, they need emotional safety. They don't want commands, they want connection. So the next time you talk to your dog, slow down. Feel your words. Match your tone to your heart. And remember, your dog is listening. Not with their ears, but with their soul. Because in the end, dogs don't just hear us. They understand us in ways we're only beginning to understand ourselves. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who loves their dog like family. Let's rewrite the way we communicate with our pets, starting with empathy, not obedience. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface, where science meets soul and behavior meets bond. Because understanding your dog isn't just about training, it's about listening.